Hiya, this is Toy Lei for Educator.com. We are learning about jQuery and AJAX and all the wonders that it has to offer. Now, if you've gone through the entire lesson set, you've just kind of seen me kind of give examples on how to use these commands, and you're like, well, but that's not really what I see online. It's right, because you got to pull it all together. The real world. This lesson is all about the real world. How you pull all these commands, all these different things that you've been learning for the past few lessons, and put it together in something that's usable, that you could get paid for as a developer. This example I'm about to show you, the interactive text box, I get paid to do it so many times. It's great, and it's so simple, especially after the first time. So let's dig right into it. What do I mean by an interactive text box? It means that, well, I'll show you. Let's do this. Let's go to Google. When we go to Google, when I type something in, hello, look at that. This is the interactive text box right here. Okay? It already fills in some stuff for you based upon what you're typing. So that this way you can just kind of insta-quick and not have to type the whole thing in and see what you're doing. Okay? That's an interactive text box. You'd be surprised how easy that is to do with jQuery. So let's try it. All right? Let's do it. All right? Now, I've set this up. I've already preset this stuff up here because we've already done this. The text box that has the, I obviously took this jQuery out. We're going to have to write that over again. But the text box that has the instigation of telling you what it wants without using up extra real estate. Now, in my eyes, as I look at it again, I don't like how dark that is. It still looks like, it doesn't look like it's a fake text in there. Now, if you don't remember this, I actually would suggest that you go back and take a look at this example of what we did here, because it's all built upon, this lesson is all built upon understanding that lesson. I don't recall what lesson number it was, but take a look for it. So because I don't like the way that looks right now, it's because it's not in there. Oh, it's up here. Let's pop that in here, and let's make it bigger even, and let's get this a lighter gray. Gray is, I think it's 77777. I think that's what gray defaults to. Let's make it lighter. Let's make it 9. I think I would like that better, and I also like it bigger fonts. Yes, make it lighter. Actually, let's make it even more lighter, because that's not light enough for me. There we go. That looks like it's fake text. I want you to type something in there. Now, again, doing real-world AJAX is not just about hitting the server, getting some data back, and putting it in. You need to do stuff like this CSS stuff to give cues to your user what you want to, what you're expecting from them in order to start to instigate the call, and when you come back, how that you want to react to that call, that new data that's been served up. So let's start off with just getting this to work better, because right now it's not working as fake text. So let's get the fake text to work by setting up the JavaScript for that. Let's get rid of this because this is useless anymore. We've overwritten this with this CSS. We're going to need the CSS because, again, it's part of this whole real-world example. I typically tend to do a lot of CSS when I'm doing jQuery AJAX calls. So it's if you don't know your CSS, please go back. Again, this is making assumptions that you know PHP, that you know some MySQL, that you know CSS. You got to go back and take a look at it. If you don't know it, come back and take a look at it, because part of the real world is showing this data that you're pulling not just instantly, but also friendly, user-friendly like. So let's make this fake text work like fake text. And how we do that is, let's see, that box is called user1. And so what we're going to say is user1, when I click in it, let's get rid of the pen, so I'll try to minimize on the typos. When I click in it, I want the text to disappear, the fake text to disappear. So let's say this dot val, set it to nothing. And we also want this dot CSS, we want the color of it to change to black, so it's not that, you know, that gray that makes it look fakey, right? All right, let's see what this does. Why am I getting an error here? This looks right. This all looks right. Maybe it's just residual. No, it's really giving me a problem. Oh, duh. I think I need a function in here, don't I? That's what makes it work. Okay, yes, all the little green squiggly bars are gone. All right, so let's try this. Make sure that this fake text kind of pops out. Okay, now we're doing good. Okay, so we're going to keep using this data that I've been using over and over and over again because I am not very good at creating fake data. So I just keep using this database that we have been using for the past few lessons. And once again, we're back to the users. We've got users in here with their username, their email, their phone number, and whether or not they're active. Okay? And just so that we know that we're pulling in the right data, I'm just going to make sure all the data shows up in here. Okay? So now this is not something, of course, that you would do in a normal page. I'm just doing this to make it easy so you can see that you and we can both verify that the data that we're coming back when we're going to do our interactive text box is correct. And I don't have to keep flipping back and forth pages. So this area here is called the grid. Boy, really brilliant naming conventions, aren't we? Okay, so on load up, first things first, let's load up the grid with pound grid. Let's load up the grid with all the data from the database, just so we can see it, okay? And actually, we don't even need to do that. We do an AJAX call. AJAX. Did I mess this up already? Oh, yes. There we go. That's right. Stuff I like to do all the time before send. Set it up with a spinner so that I know I'm not going crazy. Before send, set up the pound grid with the HTML spinner. Now, after send, I gotta give it a type of post. Because again, I prefer posts as opposed to gets. If you don't know why, you can check out the previous lesson. Now I'm typing away a mile a minute at this because I've actually already built this in the previous lesson. So if you haven't seen it, go check out the previous lesson. I don't think it was a previous lesson. I think it was 2 lessons ago where we talked about AJAX. So we want to hit up the URL. This URL, once again, we've already made it, and it's called AJAX get users. If you're not familiar with it, you might just want to go hit back that lesson and just kind of familiarize you with it. All it does is return all the users in the database into that one area, which is controlled by the success parameter. and which says that on success, go ahead and fill my GRID with the results. And I have to put results in here so it knows to send it back to me. Okay, so let's try this. So I know I'm not going crazy. All right, so on the page load, it does exactly what I'm asking it to do. It's sending me all these, everything back in the database, back to me. And if you've noticed, just like I haven't changed the code for get users, everything is in alphabetical order by user. This way it's easy for us to look up and see what's going on. Okay, why don't we, because it's all a little too verklempt in here, let me just set the spacing so that it's a little bit more user-friendly spacing-wise. Let's get rid of that. Let's pop this out to 70. Let's give this 120. Let's give this 250 because we have a lot of real estate we might as well, right? The phone number is also a little cramped, and active is 50. Let's try this again. Yeah, it's a little bit better, but not better enough. Let's give it a more. User ID, let's give it 90. User 150. Email 300. Phone 180. Active is 70. Is it actually doing anything? Doesn't feel like it's doing anything. I think we might have to live with that. Just in terms of time with the lesson, because that's not really important. I just have this here as a reference so that we know that whatever we're getting back is legit. Okay, so let's start with this text box. So when we go to Google, what do we see? We basically see down here an area with the names or the search words. So I've already created, oops, that's the wrong one. I've already created an area here, this drop-down area called drop-down. All right, right now, because nothing's happening, it's empty, and so you don't really see the div there. Okay, so let's start filling that div area. Once I start typing, let's start filling that div area with information. Now, how do you do this? All right, so let's think about this logically. Once I start typing, each time I start typing a letter, we got to make a call to the database and grab data from the database that is relevant. Okay? So if you recall from the previous lesson, by the way, let's see what that text box name is. It's called user 1. User 1, yeah, that's correct. So from our previous lesson, we know that there's an event method out there called key up. So when I type something in, the key goes up, I know it's ready for functioning. Okay, so when the key goes up, let's do something. And in this case, right now, let's just say, so we don't drive ourselves crazy with bugs and stuff, let's just try it out and say, let's do an alert. First we got to get it. So we got to get, we say var input is equal to the whatever's in the value of whatever's in that text box currently. Okay, And for now, just let's make it simple. Let's just make sure that we're getting the right value. So we don't drive ourselves crazy here. Okay, so here we are. Let's type something in, J. Perfect. My key got up. It returned me back the J. I type it again. Awesome. So we know that whole mechanism is working. So now that we got that mechanism, all we have to do really is do an AJAX call. So let's get rid of that, and let's do an AJAX call. So AJAX. And just to save some typing, let's copy and paste this and just fill in parameters. We don't want it to go to grid. We want it to go to, let's create another area over here. I think I already did create another area over there. Let me just check. Oh, I've created an answer area. Perfect. On the right side. So we want to fill the right side, the answer A, answer D, with this AJAX call. So, but first we want to, before we send it, we're going to set it up with a spinner. We're going to post that, and now we actually have real input, and it's going to be the user name, and we're going to put in input, which matches this. All right, and instead of get users, we're going to just we're going to do a search users. We're going to search the users for this input that we have here. Okay. And after we search it, we're going to pop it back into we're going to pop it into this answer D area. All right. So that's the AJAX mechanism. Now we have to actually go write the search users stuff. So let's do this. Let's create a new, add new item. And once again, it's full of stuff. And let's get rid of all this. Save it and rename it to search users. Now, because I am one of the most laziest people on the earth, I like to just cut and paste. So I know that this mechanism worked before, get users. We're going to copy all that. And, nope. We're going to copy all that and pop it in here. For some reason it didn't copy. Copy. Pop it all in here. And let's close and reload this because it's not picking up all the nice little PHP colors. Ah, there goes PHP colors. Okay. And just tweak it out because all these mechanisms are same here. Previously, search users. Okay. Search users from the DB. We need the config so that we can log into the database. We need the database class so we can actually instantiate a database class to actually use database. If we instantiate it, that's good. And here's the SQL, which is totally not what we need. So let's just get rid of this. Actually, we do need most of this, except we're just going to make it more direct from user, order by user. Okay, that's actually correct. We're just going to make it more refined. What we do need to do is we need to get this input, okay, which is sent by post under the guise of u. So here's what we do. We say u is equal to $u is equal to post, because we know we're getting it by post, of u. that's how it's being sent over. Now we input this, we can use this to refine the search that we're trying to get, where user is equal, not equal to. Because if I'm looking for Mark and I type in M, we want Mark to show up. If we make it equal to, it will only look for names that are equal to M, not the full expansion of Mark. This is just simple SQL. So again, I'm hoping that you know that already. So where user like user. Okay? And that means that basically just find this, anything that has whatever's in you show up. So Mark would show up, Maria would show up, Matthew would show up, any name with the letter M would show up if I typed M in, and then it would slowly refine itself. Okay, this is all from previous, this table stuff. We don't need this. What we do need is this here. We'll fetch the row, get rid of that. What we do need is, once it comes back, what are we going to do with the data? We are going to now set up a div, and we're just going to say, oh, kick me back the name. Kick me back the name. User. You got to echo it. That would help. Just so I know I'm not crazy, let's give me the email as well. So I have some useful information. And if they have a phone number, just type it in there as well. Might as well use all the data. All right, one other thing. I only want the active ones. You know why? Because when I'm a user, the only ones that I'm interested in are the active records. So let's start off with this. Active equals 1 and user like input. All right, so let's see what this looks like. Let's reload this. Okay, so let's type the M. All right. Here's the problem. Well, this is all right because the answers coming back are correct, but I want it in my interactive drop down, not in the answers yet. I'm getting way ahead of myself. So let's do this. First of all, this is wrong. This goes back to drop down D, and this answer, while it is useful in the future, is not useful now because all I want are names. So let's get rid of this. And let's see what that does. Pop. Perfect. It's in the area that we want it. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't look like it's an interactive drop-down. Well, that has nothing to do with jQuery. It has everything to do with CSS. So let's CSS this out. Okay. Once again, we do a lot of CSS to make this look like it's, we fake it out. So I know it's drop down D. I'm going to border it out. Solid. Type. Solid, 1 pix, gray. And to differentiate it from the rest of the area, is it not staying there? I'm going to change the background color so it looks like it is a drop-down. Let's make the background color, I think this will work. I think I use this one a lot. Let's take a look at what that does now. It gives me a line, out of control line, but let's just make sure it works. There we go. Now it's starting to look like something. Let's shape this now. Because I like my big fat letters, let's get the big fat letters to match. Let's say that everything in the drop down is the font size is going to match the font size up here, and we want to pad it out because right now it looks cramped off to the side there. So let's give it a font size of 18, and let's give it some padding, 3 pixels, so it pads it all. Looks like it's real. Let's try that. And much better. It's starting to look good now. And it's got all this extra space on the end, so let's give it a width so that it matches, so that drop down area looks like it's actually matching the box, so they look like they're one unit. Didn't make it happen, did it? Why is that? Let's inspect the element with Firebug and see what this drop down is saying. For some reason, because in one of my other CSS, it's popping it in as 400 pics. So let's make this important so that this takes the rule. This takes the precedence. It's still not doing. Did I spelled it wrong? Okay, that's good. It's just a little long. I think maybe 192 might do it. Yeah. Okay. So now, when I type it, it's starting to look like something. It's starting to look like it's part of the same unit, right? It really looks like a real drop down. Typically now you would click on it and it would do something. So now, you know what? I'm going to give it a little more padding just because it looks a little verklempt in there. Now we have to get the click mechanism to work. So that means we go back here and we set them up as links. Let's start like this first. All right, we have to give them a class because this way we can actually know what we're doing. We know what we're calling. Darn it, it really likes to do that, so I guess I'm going to do this. Give it a class of user ID, link A, and now we're going to give it an attribute because we need to know when we send this information back. We need to know which ID we're talking about. Just giving the username doesn't help. What if I have a username that's a duplicate? There's lots of Marias out there. There's lots of Marks out there. We need something unique. So we're going to put in the user ID, which is here. So let's see what this looks like. All right. So now if I look at here, yeah, it's starting to link up. Isn't that hot? Okay. So if we look at this stuff here, these are all our answers. You'll see what we just built in here is working. We get a class of user ID A. It's got its unique attribute of 13 and this one is 14. In fact, you know what? Answer is wrong. It should be this. ATTR is actually the mechanism by which we're going to connect it to. Okay? So now we can go back. Now that we can pick something and we know what it is, and we can reference it back to the database to do yet another AJAX call to kick us back a real answer, we can now write more stuff. So what we're going to say is, now when I click on one of my answers one of the links to my answers that I get back, I'm going to do another AJAX call, and I'm going to kick it back in the answer area. So let's copy this. Okay, let's copy this and put it here. Now we can actually use the results area, the answer area, answer D, pop in a spinner there. Actually, I'm going to take this spinner out because it kind of looks ugly in my drop-down. And we're going to give it an ID. Now we don't need the input anymore. We have the unique ID from the attribute. UID. We got to get that UID from here. So var UID is equal to this dot attribute UID. All right, that should pick up that 13 and the 14 that we saw earlier. And now we're going to do get user. Not get users, which is all the users. Now we know which particular user that your client has picked. And then we're going to pop the answer into this place instead of the drop down. All right? So now we have to build one more AJAX PHP script. And so we're back here. We're going to add a new item. Because this is so weird, the way Visual Studio is set up. Let's call this, let's get rid of this, then call this, what do we call it? We call it get user, not users. Yes, and let's copy everything. Let's go back and get, I think the stuff from the other one is more relevant, so let's get all the stuff from get users and put it here. And keep what we need, get rid of what we don't. All right, so once again, done this. Let's see, user ID is equal to, we did a post on the AJAX call, and we named it ID. Let me just check here. Yes, we call that ID. So that would be right. Now we select the user. We select all the information from user where user ID is equal to. Now, since we're being very specific, we can do user ID is equal to blah. And in fact, we don't even need this to be returned anymore because we already know what it is. And we actually don't even need the order by user. Just need that. And we're going to return, not the table, because it's only going to be one record. We're going to return the user's name and whatever relevant information we want to put in there. So row, let's get the name in there first. And now we can do all that stuff I was trying to do earlier. Let's see this. Email. And let's format it just a little, just to make it look, make an attempt to make it look nicer. And put the phone in there. So let's try it. And in fact, I'm going to type the word C. Now, if you notice, Charlie doesn't show up. But that's because the active is not on. Remember, we wrote that query. We only want to see the active people. So cool. Let's pick one of these. Craig, does it show up? No, it doesn't show up. So let's go back to our best friend, Firebug, and see what's up. All right. It means that it's not, the AJAX mechanism is not actually picking up here. Now, why is that? So let's inspect this element. It is called UIDA, class UIDA. All right. Let's just make sure that this is working first by doing this. Okay. So if I click on that, if I click on any of those names, it should pop up an alert. No, it doesn't. It means that this is not working. This is not picking up. Ah, and I know why. If you remember back to a previous course, we talked about live and on. This is an excellent example of when you should be using live. Because all this stuff is being, this file is being loaded up right after the whole page has loaded up. So, but the data that's coming in here is being loaded after the whole page is loaded, after all the jQuery stuff. So now you have to use live or on so that the event will bubble up properly. You can review that lesson if you want. It's a good lesson. So let's see if this is popping up. Ah, there we go. And maybe something should happen. Awesome. All right. So let's get rid of that alert. Otherwise, it's going to drive me crazy. And now, stuff is working. But now it just kind of looks a little bit not human yet. We have to take care of some stuff to kind of make it look human. First of all, let's get this down here so it's not off in outer space way on the right side that no one's looking at. So let's CSS it out so that it looks nice also, or looks respectable at least, just looks like it's part of the family. And I'm going to keep it simple because, again, I am not a designer. I just wanted to make it look like it's all part of the same unit. It's already floating right, but let's give it a margin also of 20 pixels and give it a font size. Well, we can keep that there. All right, so it's basically going to be a box. Let's try this. It's not working. It could be just the call. It was working before, so it could be simply just a an issue with the internet. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, it was an issue with the internet not being able to connect to the database. But here we are. It looks like that. Ouch. It looks like that the that 20 margin that we gave it wasn't enough. So let's give it 80. And let's make sure it bounces off the right hand side a little bit more so it just doesn't look like it's, again, still in outer space. And there we go. Awesome. Let's do a little more because it just still looks like it's not part of the family here. All right. Looking better. Okay. All right, so there's still a couple issues here. One, we see this and we see this, that these are remnants of the fact that they've got padding and bordering and stuff, CSS. So, and it also looks like this is a little too long, so let's fix this. Let's get rid of this and fix this, see if that actually works better. Looks like it's more like 188. Yep, that looks a lot better. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to make these invisible, make those areas invisible upon startup. So that belongs all the way up here. My default set default start defaults. Get my English together so that it makes more sense. Start defaults. We're going to turn off the drop down area. We're going to hide it. We're also going to hide the answer area. Let's try that. All right. Looks like we're back to the beginning, but we know we're being tricky. We got something else going on. But my box is not showing up. Why is that? It's because it's working. It's doing what it's supposed to do. If I check Firebug and I check this console, you see it's doing what it's supposed to do, but we can't see it because we hit it. Which means that when we do here, this key up stuff, once we start actually putting input in there, we actually want to turn it back on. Okay, so let's turn it back on. So J drop down D dot show. Let's try that. Shows back up. Pretty hot. Pretty awesome. Okay, so let's pick one. All right, what's going on here? Well, I'll tell you, same problem as before. It's doing its thing, but because we hit it, we have to now show it back up. So let's show it back up here. Once we click on the link, the name link that we want, let's show up the answer area so that it's not, looking retarded. Answer D, turn it back on. There it goes. Pops right back up. Awesome. Last part of this is, well, okay, I still see all this stuff. I've already picked my thing. I'm way beyond, I already picked my name. I'm way beyond all these names that are now useless information, like clutter. So once we've selected our answer, let's hide again the drop down area. There you go. Starts doing its thing. Pretty simple. That is a real-world example of how you use all these things that we've been learning about jQuery into a unit, into a functional unit. How you use CSS to help you kind of trick you into giving some visual cues to users. Now you can do it. Go out there and make some money, right? All right. Come up. You can certainly do this with anything that you see that's already working out there, and you can make your own stuff and just really start exploiting the nature of jQuery and CSS to kind of trick out your stuff. All right, I'm Toy. We're talking about jQuery and AJAX. You're watching educator.com. We're almost through with this course. One last more to go. We're doing good. Have a great day.